AI videos can be kind of creepy. But it is also kind of amazing what we can do now with the technology at our disposal. The ability to make fan-made films completely in AI is both kind of amazing and a little bit weird. But the question that we have to be wondering, is this the future of Star Wars? Is this what we're going to have to rely on to tell good Star Wars stories? And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Recently, Craven the Kid released an 11-minute short movie of Star Wars, completely made through AI. And we're going to be reacting to it today here on the channel, so make sure you hit that like on the way in. I will say at the front, I'm not going to play too many clips from the actual short film. One, I think you should go check it out for yourself and see. I'll link it down in the description below. But also, I don't know how Craven played this without getting it completely blocked with all of the John Williams scores that are a part of the film. It works. I think it works kind of well. There's some things I enjoy about it. There's some things that I still think are just a little bit off about it. We're going to talk about all that today here on the channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jeremy. This is The Force Fandom. This is a channel for regular fans who love Star Wars. And so we're going to react to The Ghost's Apprentice. A century after the Skywalker saga, a new chapter unfolds. Jace Moon, a young Jedi, has spent the last decade training under the spectral guidance of his uncle Orin, a Force ghost. Now, as a rising darkness emerges, the High Imperium, Jace must step forward to face this growing threat and shape the future of the galaxy. Like, you can already see, like, it looks okay, but it's too clean, it's too neat, it's too, I don't know. So I watched this first on my phone. This is the first time I'm looking at it here on my computer screen. And if you're watching on a phone, you're probably not going to see this. But it's little things like this that, again, I think this is amazing and astounding that you can do this with AI. And I'm really interested to see where this continues. But even just looking at them walking down, just the way that the camera focuses, the outlines of these individuals and the way that the ship and the blur, like our brains, it's amazing that our brains and eyes can perceive and understand. Like, I can look at this and know this isn't real. I understand. It's all not real. I get that. But to look at this and know that this is more than just like CGI, kind of layered over things, it really speaks to how amazing sometimes this can look. Because right now what we're looking at, even again, as we zoom in, and I'll bring the camera in here, you can just see the way that these human beings are kind of portrayed. You can tell there's something off about it. You can tell even here in the next clip that, again, this is quite impressive. Like, the level of detail here. Now, obviously, you can see maybe there's some pixels and some issues, but the level of detail in the facial hair and the beard, I think some of these close-ups that we see throughout this little fan film are absolutely astounding, the level that we can get to them. The issues come when they start talking. But I'm going to say this. The acting of the AI is still maybe better than some of the things we've gotten recently in the Star Wars universe. And no, I'm not referring to Skeleton Crew, because I thought that was actually pretty good. Anyway, let's keep going. You'll see what I mean when they start talking a little bit more. It's a little bit herky-jerky, but overall, if we're just talking about the storyline of this film, it's interesting. It's a fan film. Like, I'm not going to put it on the same scrutiny as I would a full feature-length thing made by Lucasfilm, but this is intriguing. It's interesting.
Thank you.
So you can even see just in the movement, in the acting, and this is where Star Wars Theory has talked some about his film that he's making. This is why it's really important to have human actors actually acting, and then you're putting the render and whatever it is on top. I'm talking like I know what I'm saying. I have no idea what goes into this. I have no idea how this actually works, and I'm not going to go to figure it out because this is not something I'm interested in making. But you can kind of see why that would be the case, why you still need human beings or an actor to do the acting that then you can put stuff on top of. This is why we use the deep fakes a little bit differently. And it's even come a long way since what we've seen in Mandalorian Season 2 with Luke. Here, this is one thing I will say about this film. In the short amount of time that this exists, I think it made me interested in a character in under 2 minutes. Like, I was somewhat interested. I was like, oh, okay, that was quick, right? Obviously, you can't get a whole growing up sequence, but you get this stage of this Jace Moon character being dropped off. Now, all of a sudden, music change, transition, he's an adult. I am interested. I'm intrigued. I think it's well done for what it is. Is this the future, though? Is this where Star Wars is going to have to exist? That's a pretty cool shot. Okay, here's what I'll say. I think that the editing and the way that Craven put this together is really smart in a few ways. I'm not going to show the lightsaber stuff because, again, I want you to go watch this. Go support something like this. At least take a look. It's 11 minutes of your time. And I think it'll be worth just seeing it. But I think that's one of the really difficult things that I'm interested to see how it gets brought in other fan films is this lightsaber combat, the movement. I think it can be really challenging. And so it has to be these brief little cuts. You're not going to get kind of one cut camera movement around what's happening the same way you can with choreography. And I think that's partly where it falls. In terms of the storyline, I mean, we're getting some intriguing moments. We don't know what's happened. Obviously, it's at 11 minutes. But again, based on the music choices and even just from a character standpoint, we have this 100 years later, things that are going on. What's happened? Is this a remnant of the new Jedi Order? We don't know any of that. And I mean, I would love to hear some of that thought process as to this character and the characters that were made here. But all that aside, I think we have to have a further conversation. And this is kind of where I wanted to talk about the idea of where Star Wars is headed. Is this it? Is this where Star Wars is eventually going to go? Are we going to have to rely on fan films, fan edits, fan-made stuff, kind of like where we had to live post the original trilogy before the prequels, where there wasn't much being made by official Star Wars stuff, like the EU, the Expanded Universe Legends, whatever you want to call it now. George looked at it as kind of a multiverse. Like, yeah, all that stuff is happening, but that's not really Star Wars. And whether fans want to hear that or not, that's how George looked at it. Even though some of those stories that we look at as fans are part of our own like head canon, it wasn't really that way. And I think that's okay, right? That's okay. And so I wonder, is this where Star Wars is going to have to live? Is it going to live with the fans that love it, fans like Star Wars Theory, who are creating his own fan film? He's done Vader 1, it's now Vader 2. I think it's Vader 2. I might be wrong if it's 3 or whatever. But is this where we're going to have to rely on people to make Star Wars stories, to make Star Wars things that are interesting? I think there is a future in this. I think for people that have talented ability to write good stories, there can be some of the gatekeeping wall. You can make your stories and tell them and use visuals now in ways that we couldn't have even imagined before, right? Like, I think you could have written a short story. You could write a novel of your own in the Star Wars universe, and people have done those things. You can make fan films. People have done those things. But with the barrier of entry now using AI, lowering the need of equipment and everything else, does this change the game? I don't know. What I really just want is I want really great Star Wars on the big screen. But the problem is I don't know that we're ever going to get that again. We might be over. So where do we go from here? Is this the answer? I don't know. I think it's okay. I'm not going to go so far as to say it's terrible. I think it's interesting. I think what Craven has done is admirable, and it's really incredible from just one perspective that this is what happened. I think the story that's put in this little fan film is flawed, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. I do think I'm intrigued by a character like this that's come along, that's far enough away, 100 years away from the Skywalker saga, and there's a new enemy. Okay, we don't get any of the backstory. We don't know how any of that came about. We don't know, but we don't need to know. Right now, I'm okay with it, right? Because I'm going to give so much more grace to a creator like this than I'm going to give to Lucasfilm and Disney. They have no grace. There's no wiggle room. There's no space. It may not be fair. That may not be right, but that's the reality. And I think that's where most fans are. So let me know down in the comments below, is AI fan film the future of Star Wars? Is this how we're going to have to keep Star Wars alive for the next 40 to 50 years because the things being made by Lucasfilm and Disney are just not going to be? I really think there's going to be a time when Lucasfilm and Disney are going to sit back and go, we're done making Star Wars for a time because it's just not working. I think we're not far off from that. I don't know. Guys, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. If you like this kind of stuff, leave a like on the video. If you want to see another one of my videos, you can click right here. Remember, the Force will be with you always.